Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. Yeah. So we're back at it again. I know there's been like a little bit of a break with regard to these coming out, but work has been a bunch.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are recording this inordinately late, and I just worked at 12 and I have to work another 12 tomorrow
and the day after that
Oh man, we're gonna see what happens. It's fun on a bun, right?
Yeah.
I don't need to sleep, it's fine. Live life superiorly.
It's only temporary.
Yeah,
so
it's only temporary.
Yeah.
But so before we get into the business of the podcast, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, or do any of the other shenanigans that everybody else is programmed to say. It's probably the things that I said, but it might change. I don't know.
It's close enough.
It's close enough. Yeah, it's whatever. It's a C+. Who cares? D stands for diploma. I'm from California. But if you're listening to this on your podcast network of choice, don't forget to leave us a review or do us a favor and leave us a review, whatever sounds clever, because I don't understand how podcast statistics and analytics work. It seems like
it's not that they exist and you don't understand it. It's
That's
just
fair.
that they really don't exist.
It's just that there are numbers and they correlate to chaos. So that's thug life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's fun. Whatever. All of those shenanigans aside. Oh, introductions. I'm Jonathan Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove. This is the Horn and Cauldron podcast. We're the best. Share us with your friends. We're chill, dog. That's what we're trying to do here. And today we are talking about Lughnasadh 102.
That's right.
I have had to repeat the word Lughnasadh in my head almost every 5 seconds for the last several minutes as we got ready to record this, because if I look at that word, I call it Lughnasadh. And I'm not saying that that is or is not right or wrong, but it's just the way that it's in my head. So, how do you say Lughnasadh or Lughnasadh? Let us know below or in like a message or something, because I see how you can get Lughnasadh, but it's wrong. It's wrong, and I don't know why it's wrong, and I'm not an expert or anything at all like that, but I just, in my heart, believe that it should be Lughnasadh, and so that's the way it was committed to memory in my fucking head.
Well, instead of calling it Lughnasadh, you could just call it Lammas.
No, I'm not going to do that. That's like a whole new word. I'm not going to remember a whole new word.
You could also call it phrase blot.
I already know llamas, and they're weird pretend camels.
They're so fluffy.
I think llamas are dicks, though, right? Are the llamas the ones that spit?
One of them.
Okay. I think llamas might be dicks. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been around a llama. Do you own llamas, and are they dicks? Let me know.
They're so fluffy looking.
Oh, they're cute as shit at a distance.
They look adorable.
Isn't that what the Emperor turned into in the Emperor's New Groove? He turned into a llama? Yeah, that was adorable as shit. I love that movie.
Alpacas too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alpacas are just different llamas.
Yeah, they're basically just different llamas.
Yeah.
They're just like llama
I guess technically everything's a different something, because different's not a great descriptor. It's late and I'm fucking tired. So whatever, Lughnasadh, what's going on with that?
Okay, so Lughnasadh, which you could also call Lammas or phrase blot or a variety of other names.
I know phrase blot.
It marks the beginning of the harvest. So it's the first of 3 harvest festivals. So we kind of have a few harvest festivals, like we had a few spring festivals. And it typically takes place on August 1st, although some people celebrate it on July 31st, like at sundown, and then like go until like sundown the next day, or kind of however you want to do that. It's sometimes also celebrated on the nearest Sunday to August 1st, and this holiday is about halfway between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox. In the southern hemisphere, it's typically celebrated on February 1st, but again, like we say for a lot of different things, you don't have to celebrate it on the day. It can be celebrated round then.
If you're working a thing and you can't like do it that day, the harvest isn't going to be like
How dare.
angry at you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's that like, the tomatoes are ripe. I gotta pick those, but like some shit comes up, so you gotta pick them like the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever's
We
clever,
actually
you know?
like really rarely celebrate a holiday on the date.
Yeah.
Because we are busy people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
so
my whole life has been that way. I mean, like Christmas was like plus or minus several days, even as a kid, like depending on like, you know, whatever. So yeah, like who cares about like the exact day? Ugh, that's dramatic. Don't be so dramatic.
yeah. So don't feel like you have to celebrate it on
Yeah.
that day if that doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
But if you prefer to celebrate it on that day, that's dope too.
Oh yeah, rock and roll. If you can do it, do it. But like, don't worry.
Yeah, so Lughnasadh celebrates a lot of things. So it celebrates abundance and growth, fertility, solar energy, the harvest, of course, honoring the dead as well. A lot of the harvest festivals are very like honoring dead and ancestors.
Mhm.
It's also a good time to visit holy wells, collect or create
When isn't a
corn
good time to
dolls.
visit holy wells, right? I feel like every blot is like, or what do you call those, sabbats?
Sabbats.
Yeah, I feel like every sabbat is like, you know, this sabbat would be a great idea to do all this stuff, comma, visit holy wells, right?
It comes up in about half of them. So,
I know,
yeah.
right?
To collect or create
not?
corn dolls, partake in athletic contests or watch them,
Sure,
to
yeah.
bake bread. That's one of the hallmarks of Lammas. There's slight differences between Lammas and Lughnasadh, but for the most part, they're basically the same
Yeah,
thing.
Lammas is like a whole ass kind of bread. Lammas bread.
Yes, it is. It's also the like Christianization of the Lughnasadh.
Celebrated on a Sunday, of course. It's
Yeah,
Christianization.
yeah.
Come
Visit
on.
markets or fairs are like another way that you can celebrate Lughnasadh.
Sure, yeah.
Going hiking and also entering into a contract, marriage or otherwise.
Yeah, sweet time to do business shenanigans.
Yes, actually
guess.
it is.
Yeah. Visit markets or fairs. That's because it's like money time for like what do you call those, farmers markets?
Yeah, it is. We talk about a lot more of the general stuff behind Lughnasadh in Lughnasadh 101, which is episode 17. So I recommend that you listen to that. This one's
Yep.
kind of like a supplemental where we kind of take a deep dive into some part of Lughnasadh. And we're kind of going to be talking about the farmers markets and fairs things. So the like, we're going to be talking about the Tailteann Games. And really what that is purported to be the oldest instance of a Lammas or Lughnasadh festival in the world. And really, Tailteann is the place. And in order to talk about this, we kind of have to start from the beginning and work our way forwards.
It's generally how time works for humans. So yeah, sure, rock and roll.
So we're going to start with the Book of Invasions, which is the dopest name for a book basically ever.
It's a little sad when you actually think about it, but it's pretty gangster.
So it's a collection of Irish poems and prose stories. The earliest edition was compiled in the 11th century by an unknown source, and it contains both pagan and early medieval Christian versions of Irish stories and legends and myths and other things pertaining to heroes and deities and gods. And this was actually considered history, like quote unquote Irish history, by people up until about the mid 1800s. So I see a lot of similarities in the Book of Invasions to the Eddas, in the way that they are used and in the type of information that they have.
Sure.
Although the two different sort of like separate religions are very different, but also have some similarities. There's a lot that kind of happens here. Like in that 11th to 13th century time frame, people were like going about wanting to write stuff down about places. So in the Book of Invasions, we talk about Lughnasadh, who is really the sort of namesake for Lughnasadh here. So Lu is a member of the Tailteann, and he is a hero. He's a king, and he's also a deity who's associated with craftsmanship, oaths, the law, and the harvest, among several other things.
Sure. Yeah.
So his foster mother, Tailteann, is an earth goddess, and she cleared all the fields in Ireland after the battle between the Tuatha and their names just slipped my mind, and the other guys. So
Enemies.
she cleared all the fields in Ireland to make way for its inhabitants so that they could then grow crops. And she was so exhausted by doing this work that it killed her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dramatic turn.
She literally worked herself to death so that everyone could eat.
Sure. Yeah.
So, in honor of her, Lugh buried her in what we now know as Tailteann.
Okay.
And he, at the time, it was really popular to do a few things in Ireland, and really kind of like all of the Indo-European cultures, to honor someone of importance who died. And that is to hold a funeral ceremony and funeral games. People were like, somebody's dead, let's race.
Let's see who can lift this fucking rock the most.
Yeah,
I get it, right?
I don't particularly understand, but also we have a way different relationship with death than the ancient people did.
Yeah, especially modern Americans. Everybody's very, very concerned and doesn't want to talk about the death thing. It's, well, it's not great in the grand scheme.
Yeah.
But whatever, right?
Yeah.
No, I completely get it, right?
Yeah. And when we talk about funeral games, we're talking about like athletic contests similar to
we're
like
playing D&D.
Similar to like the Olympics.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're seeing a lot of that kind of stuff. And it's not necessarily to crown the best in the world, but to crown the best at the fair. So,
well, I mean, the Olympics weren't necessarily originally, it was just like the best that could compete in those games. Yeah. I mean, it's just athletic sporting events for both entertainment and also, like, as a Scotsman, it's very like, look at this rock. Who can throw this rock the furthest? Look at this stick. Who can flip this stick the hardest?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was just like kind of whatever you got to do, right? It's Highland Games style.
Well,
from my
and
perspective,
we talk about this in Lughnasadh 101, but like these games like were such a big deal, like funeral games in general.
Sure.
But in particular, these like early harvest time funeral games were like such a big deal that like they were like, oh, let's have a swimming contest, but there's no lake nearby. So they just like dug a big hole and filled it with water.
Oh my god, I thought you were going to say they land swimmed, and that's the funniest thing ever to me. So I'm a little let down, honestly.
Yeah.
Try harder, guys.
So now that we kind of have the backdrop for all of this, we can talk about the games themselves. So some sources say these games go as far back as 1600 BCE.
Jeez.
That's a very long time ago. Thousands of years. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And they were held up until the early Middle Ages, but then sort of died out after the Norman invasion. And there were a few unsuccessful attempts to revive the games over the centuries.
Sure.
But ultimately, they weren't successful at reviving the games until 1924.
That's unfortunate, but seems like a pretty reasonable thing when you think about the stuff that was done.
Yeah, so
you know?
The ancient games, we do have some information about them, but not a whole lot. And some of it comes from promotional material from the existing revival of said ancient games. So take all
totally
of that
reasonable. You
with like a bit of a grain of salt.
Yeah, totally.
But you know, we do have some information there. So the ancient games were organized around 3 main events, and these events happened over a series of days.
Sure.
So this is like, you know, a week or 2, maybe even 3. These games are lasting. This is not a short time frame here. So they were organized around honoring the dead, around proclaiming laws, and then around athletic games and quote unquote other entertainment.
That's a high risk, quote unquote.
That is a high risk,
I'll
quote
allow
unquote. You're welcome.
Yeah.
So honoring the dead. So for the first few days, so like the first 3 days, people would sing mourning songs and then cremate the dead all together at once on a funeral pyre. It is, I do not know.
Like America's Got Talent style, or what is that, Eurovision style?
I'm gonna say
sing off.
It's
because I will stand here and support funeral singing competitions.
I'm gonna say
every day.
It's somewhere between like a Eurovision sing off,
Yeah,
and
that's what I
you know
want.
when you go to the karaoke bar and everybody's singing the song that everybody knows,
Sure.
like that.
Yeah, okay.
Somewhere in between.
It's
those.
less fun. I'm just saying, somebody's got to be crowned best dirge singer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So people would sing mourning songs. There were
Maybe
traditional
slow
songs. There were songs that people just like basically made up,
Yeah.
and you know that sort of thing. And then
Yeah.
they would cremate the dead. I am unclear as to what the time frame is for these dead. Are they like a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months?
I mean, big
don't
fire,
know.
fast
I don't
cremation,
know.
small fire,
Yeah.
slow cremation.
So that is the first part, honoring the
Fire.
dead. So then the next part of this is proclaiming laws. So during the whole time frame of the games, not just the proclaiming of laws part, there was a truce during the time of the games, in times of war, particularly in the ancient times. This was kind of like a bigger deal, right? There was definitely not a truce during like World War II. You know,
well, I mean,
for these
1924, a little early, but yeah.
So there was a truce during the time of the games, and this allowed bards and druids to pass the word out about new laws that had been done. They would basically wander around and proclaim the laws.
Sure.
New laws, new things of that nature.
In my mind, it's like, hey, that shit's illegal now. Don't do that, man.
Probably.
Yeah.
At a certain level,
right?
probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Unfortunately, most of this information comes through the lens of drinking game, Christianization of Europe.
Yeah. I was going to say fire safety, but you know what? It's Christianization of Europe.
There's still time.
Yeah.
There's still time.
Just wait.
There's still time. So in addition to proclaiming laws, reviewing contracts was also made at this time, since you had all kind of the people doing laws and stuff back then. But most particularly and popularly were marriage contracts. And we talk about this, some of it in the Lughnasadh 101 episode, and we also talk about it in our hand fasting episode, where the marriage contracts would be traditionally for a year and a day.
Yeah.
They were entered into during this time, and sometimes this also happened during the next segment, which is the entertainment time.
Yeah.
But basically,
nothing says, why don't we get married? Quite like a funeral pyre and a contract negotiation, right?
And
isn't that like
athletic
modern marriage is just like, hey, we should get this relationship involved in lawyers and shit.
Yeah. So
contract negotiation and funeral pyres.
So people would take on these temporary marriage contracts with the idea of like after a year and a day you could like renew that like a library book.
Legit, the year and a day like scheme, genius. Yeah. Absolute fucking genius on marriage contracts.
Yeah.
Right?
This is actually incredibly common for ancient people that lived in the ancient like Celtic and Gallic areas, as well as ancient Nordic areas.
Sure,
having temporary marriage contracts was huge in ancient times.
It solves a lot of the problems that are currently happening in marriage contracts today. Right?
Yeah.
Like year and a day, guys.
So the marriage contracts were for a year and a day. And basically what would happen is couples would all stand together, and then there would basically be like a mass like temporary marriage ceremony. Yeah. And then everybody
get in your car, get in line. Elvis Presley's gonna get it done. Don't worry. Yeah. It sounds like some Vegas shit.
Yeah, I'm here for it. It's very Vegas.
I'm very here for it.
So then they would get married, and then like some people who had done the marriage contract thing, they would decide to get divorced or separated, and then they would meet on Separation Hill.
Just a bunch of knives in that hill?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any information about what this separation hill entailed. Yeah. But
it's not that they're getting a divorce. If you're married for a year and a day, they're not getting a divorce. They're just meeting up and being like, hey, so...
let's not do this anymore.
This was fucking dreadful, right? I guess. Fuck both of us? I'm out. Deuces, basically. Right? And then just like dip out.
Yeah,
down and opposite sides of the hill.
It was really common to have these like temporary marriages. Like, basically everybody did it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I feel like if we look at the pure statistics of like marriage in America today, guys, year and a day. It's not a dumb idea. It's probably a smarter idea.
I mean, you go through a hard winter and you know.
I'm not trying to give the government more reasons to take our fucking money because a marriage license costs money. And shit.
We paid money for ours. I don't remember how much.
Yeah, I don't remember how much. But like, I'm just saying, year and a day, government makes more money also. It's smart in every possible wheelhouse. Right? You gotta renew this shit. Y'all gotta agree every year to just like not be assholes.
Yeah.
You know, that sounds like a pretty gangster way to live your relationship. Especially since like whatever, some statistically non-anomalous portion of marriages in a divorce nowadays.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck it is, like 80% or some horrifying number like that.
I don't even know.
Yeah. I don't even know. Maybe it's lower than that, but whatever. It seems dramatic. You know?
Yeah. So these temporary marriages were so common that the church actually got mad about it. Yeah. Like when England ruled everything.
Sure.
These marriages were later called Tailteann marriages after the name of the place.
Sure.
That were doing all this stuff in, and they were considered valid up until the 13th century. Wow. And after the 13th century, the church was like, no more of this.
Yeah.
And they no longer recognize them as marriages. It makes too much sense.
Shut it down.
Yeah, and the church no longer recognized them as marriages. That did not stop people from doing this.
Of course not.
It just stopped the church from recognizing them as marriages. Yeah. Now, at the end of all of this law proclaiming and marriage contract business, there was another bonfire. This time they didn't light people on fire, though. Or corpses. It was just a bonfire.
Yeah.
To mark like the end,
basically. It was a regular bonfire, not a funeral bonfire.
Yeah.
And I mean, that sounds gangster, though. Yeah.
And then we start with the third part, which is probably the most fun part, which is athletic games and other entertainment.
Yeah.
So they played a variety of athletic games. More than there are in this list, but also, like I said, keep in mind that some of the things on this list may be essentially marketing propaganda from the like early the like early revivals of these games, right? Sure. So there was jumping contests and hurling, which is like throwing a big stone. And then there's racing, like running and horse racing. They had like throwing spears and archery and sword fighting and boxing. There was wrestling. There was even chariot racing.
Sure, yeah.
For all of these,
it's like regular horse racing, but like in a tiny boat.
Swimming too, in
sky boats,
in either lakes or in man-made ponds.
Yeah, land swimming, less exciting. Still interesting.
I don't know, man. It depends on how you do land swimming. That might be pretty fun to watch.
Fair. It's like linear mud wrestling.
I am picturing it as if the guys from Monty Python invented it.
I'm definitely thinking of Monty Python. Yeah. Yes.
But in addition to the athletic games, there were other types of games. So there were also competitions for singing and storytelling and dancing and even strategy. So there were other types of competitions too. And in addition to these ones, a lot of craftspeople gathered to sell their wares, as one does. And they also competed, trying to be named for the best goldsmith or the best weaver or the best armorer or the best jeweler or, the best zucchini or something like that.
The best zucchini?
Yeah.
Like they just transmogrified into a fucking veg?
No, but you can grow vegetables.
Yeah, that would be best farmer, my guy.
I'm gonna go best zucchini.
Best zucchini farmer, but
no, best zucchini
You're like, look at me.
Because
Best zucchini.
Because have
That's
you
me
ever
right now.
seen a really gigantic zucchini and you're like, whoa, look at this zucchini. I'm going to show this zucchini to all my friends.
I'm going to be real with you. Big zucchini, not best zucchini. Biggest zucchini, yes. Best zucchini, no. That's a big fuck zucchini.
Yes, but it's
big
a big
pumpkin,
zucchini.
not as delicious as small pumpkin.
Yes, but there's still competitions for the biggest.
Yeah,
and that is one of the things.
I would compete for the bestest.
I mean, yeah, but that's not nearly as fun as competing for the biggest or weirdest shaped zucchini.
I mean, weirdest shaped zucchini I'm always here for, right?
Yeah, see?
I want to see somebody grow a zucchini in a knot, but that's a separate distinct issue. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's those, like, the square watermelons, you know?
Yeah.
Like that kind of shit. I'm here for
So
that.
you can still go to the Tailteann Games to this day.
Dope.
It's like a huge like tourist attraction in that particular area.
Sure. Yeah.
And
that'd be fire.
it would
totally
be super
wanna go.
fun to go to.
One day.
Yeah.
One day we'll go. Do a vlog about it.
Yeah, so that's basically the namesake and the reason why Lughnasadh is the festival that it is.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very dope. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
It's very Scottish Games adjacent.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm very here for Scottish Games adjacent because I love the Scottish Games. So, very fire.
Yeah, yeah. So if you are looking to celebrate Lughnasadh, we've got a bunch of ways for you to celebrate that you can sort of pick and choose. Obviously, do whatever you want. But if you don't know what to do, here are some great ways to do it. So you can participate in or watch some athletic contests.
Yeah.
You can feast, especially if it's with food that you have harvested yourself.
Yeah. Always a good excuse to feast.
Yeah, we're about ready to have a little tiny mini feast because it looks like our roof tomatoes are about ready
to go ripe.
About ready to go ripe. It's very
We grew
exciting.
some tomato plants, and those motherfuckers are taller than our house.
Yeah, that's why they're called roof
So
tomatoes.
they're roof tomatoes because they've peaked above the roof out of judgment. So
we live in a redwood forest, and everything here wants to grow very tall to reach the
Everything's
sunlight.
like, hey, what's that? A distance? What if I did all of that shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
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 Especially sage. Motherfucker, can we grow sage?
With the only thing that does
pineapple
not
sage is becoming dramatic.
The
It is
only
so
thing
big.
that does not grow really tall is we have a persimmon tree, and it's very wide, but not
It does
tall.
love
It's
the width, but
very
no
crazy.
height. It's
Yeah.
a weird
It's very
persimmon tree.
weird. It's the only one.
Yeah.
So, so especially if it's food that you've harvested yourself.
Yeah.
You can, of course, plan a ritual, and we have
Or
a simple
locally
ritual for
harvested
you later.
CSA boxes. Guys, support
Yeah.
local agriculture. Don't buy from a distance. That's, well, dumb, honestly. So,
Yeah.
eat in-season food that's local.
Yeah, and also challenge yourselves to try and figure out what to do. We actually just started getting a CSA box, and they gave us this huge thing of fennel, and I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Dionysus feast.
Yeah,
Let's
we're gonna do
go.
it. Yeah.
Because one of Dionysus's big things is fennel. If you don't know, listen to Dionysus Deep Dive. And I was looking at recipes for fennel because I've literally never eaten a fennel bulb in my life. And found a really delicious recipe for pesto. And I'm like, okay, so how do I get more of this already?
Here for it.
So anyway, so you can plan a ritual, and we've got a simple Lammas ritual for you in a bit. You can have a picnic, you can go visit a holy well, or just like a well, or like a spring.
Yeah.
You know, like if you've got a well in your backyard, I suppose you could go visit that well. It doesn't have to be anything super
I mean, if you have a
fancy.
modern well and it's just like a hole in the ground, still counts. Go visit
Still a
that
well,
shit.
yeah.
Be like, what's up?
You can go to a nearby lake. Right now is a really popular time for like county and state fairs. You can go visit a fair, buy fresh groceries from your local farmer's market or a CSA, go pick berries.
Yeah.
Right around where we live, the blackberries are just about to be ripe.
Yeah.
And I mean, in some parts of the county that we live in, they're already ripe.
Oh,
But
yeah.
where we live, it's colder, so our harvest is later. So, you know, go pick some berries because that would be super fun. You can go for a hike. Also, you can pair that with other things. You can go make or you can buy corn husk dolls or other types of like corn husk art.
Sure. Yes.
People don't just make dolls out of them, but dolls is like the big one.
Yeah.
Bonus, if you make the corn dolls, you can hang on to them and also use them for your Imbolc ceremony later in the late winter, early spring.
Yep.
If you are so inclined, you can make plans for your hand fasting or for your wedding ceremony. It's a very auspicious time for that. You can go visit a cemetery because remember, harvest time is about honoring the dead and those who came before you. So you can also look at honoring your ancestors, whether that's at a ceremony or not, or a cemetery or not. You can do fertility or abundance spells because this is a great time for that too. Bake some bread. That's what Lammas is all about, is baking bread.
Sweet bread. Do it.
Delicious bread.
Yeah.
You can make oaths. So some people choose to use this time of year to dedicate themselves to their craft or to do sort of like resolutions of things they wish to change in their life. You can, of course, wear flower crowns and garlands. I mean, I am a person who wears them literally all the time.
You can wear them all the time.
You can wear them all year round.
Guess what? Flower crown. Better looking hat. So.
Especially if you're not a hat person.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly a hat person. I like the idea of wearing hats, but when it comes to actually putting one on me, I'm just like, ugh. Ugh.
I don't know about that. That seems like a bunch of emotions about a fucking hat. But
it's how I feel.
I wear hats, but also flower crowns are gangster.
Yeah. You can also make your own flower crown, of course.
Yeah.
You can do an abundance or a money spell, hand in hand with harvest time, being like for fertility and abundance and honoring your ancestors, is also for abundance and for money.
Straightforward.
Yeah. You can read the poem John Barleycorn, written by Robert Burns, a old-timey Scottish poet.
Gotta read more Robbie Burns. That guy, crazy English. I mean, it's not really English, but like, yeah, I love Robbie Burns' poetry.
Yeah. His poem, John Barleycorn, it became so associated with this particular holiday that basically people deified John Barleycorn and low-key started worshiping him.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So it is it's actually very common in several areas of the UK, not just Scotland and not just Ireland, for people to go and hike to the top of a hill for Lughnasadh and to take with them an ear of corn and then to bury the ear of corn for John Barleycorn.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You can also donate or volunteer at a charity. The harvest season is about sort of like helping the community, because the harvest isn't just you harvesting your things, although yes, you would do that also, but it's also about the community harvesting the fields of grain that they would be able to use to eat throughout the winter time. So this is a holiday that's particularly associated with community work and with charity, even more so than you would think like Yule as like a modern American. We really sort of think about charity time being like the holidays TM. But this is really, for a pagan side of things, much closer to what that would be from like a holiday kind of perspective. And you can also hold a family reunion. You've got a bunch of people hanging out and partying and honoring ancestors and stuff. Why not get together the fam and have a family reunion?
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, like, a family reunion is very like ancestral, like honoring.
Absolutely.
Because, like, second cousin, ancestrally connected sort of a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I dig it. Yeah.
So for us, we celebrate Lughnasadh. It's a pretty low key one for us, although where we live, it's typically sort of like hottest of the festivals.
Yeah. It's like the most hyped time of year.
Yeah. It's very warm where we are during this time of year. And for us, really a lot of Lughnasadh is looking forward to Scottish Games, the athletic festival, and like sort of not necessarily connecting with your ancestors, but connecting with your heritage.
Totally.
Yeah. That is the thing that we do.
Meeting up with your clan tent and like, getting kilts in your tartan and, you know, like watching the heavies and the bagpipe competitions and drummers competitions and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Having the traditional food.
I mean, and the Scottish Games are a bit late for us. We go to the Alameda County Fairgrounds Scottish Games, the Pleasanton Scottish Games, which were originally in the county that we lived in at Santa Rosa Fairgrounds in Sonoma County. But technically the Scottish Games started like a month ago.
Yeah.
So and in California there are Scottish Games like from like June through September.
Something like
because October. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because like the SoCal Games are like early October, huh? Yeah, yeah, that's true. Like what do you call it? Seaside Games, I think, are like late September, early October, or something like that. Which one day we'll get down to Seaside Games. Those are cool cats there. I know a bunch of dudes who do Seaside Games, but yeah, so like this is really like mid-season Scottish Games.
Yeah, so for us it's a lot of getting ready to help out at the athletic games.
Yeah, at the big ones
and
for us.
celebration.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, basically they do everything there except for getting married and proclaiming laws. So, you know.
Well, I mean the Cali Club makes a bunch of fucking decisions, so it's kind of like proclaiming laws. And I have no doubt that some motherfuckers aren't getting married at the Scottish Games.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, hell, we got married like the week before the Scottish Games. So
yeah, specifically for that reason. So for
memory.
us, it's about Scottish Games. It's about our anniversary. This is generally a pretty low key Sabbath for us, just because we have so much else happening. So around the house, we will oftentimes hold a small ritual.
Sure. Yeah.
Sometimes we'll make corn dolls, but we usually refrain from doing that until the later harvest seasons, because when we go to Scottish Games, we try to support as many of the vendors there as possible, and there are some really fantastic vendors there that make corn and like wheat dolls and stuff.
Yeah.
So we try to support that, but you know, we do gardening. I typically harvest the herbs in our yard around this time, because for us the warm season starts later. So for us this is sort of like a blend of Midsummer and Lughnasadh.
Oh yeah, certainly seasonality wise for like our crops, you know, being underneath the redwoods and being so close to the ocean, but also, you know, I mean, like seasonal drift, like I mean, we had rain like what, 3 weeks ago it was raining.
Yeah, and we're supposed to get rain next week.
Yeah, so
like, yeah,
we live in a weird place,
and of course climate change. But that's its own thing.
Well, seasonal drift is seasonal drift on its own problem, you know.
Yeah, so for us, this is a pretty low key, like sort of family centric kind of Sabbath. Totally. We generally are not going big, having crazy parties, because we got a lot happening and we've got a lot that kind of goes into this time of year. So for us, this is really more of an introspective kind of way that we celebrate this. And I tried to kind of capture that a bit with our Lammas ritual. So we'll go ahead and get right into that. Yeah. So for that, in addition to anything that you generally prefer to have as magical items in your ritual work, you're going to want, as usual, something to drink and a small snack. In addition to that, you will want to get some bread or biscuit dough that is ready to be baked. It can be homemade. It can be store-bought. It can be one of those pop cans. There is no hate. Those are fucking
delicious.
Those are delicious.
No hate, no shade. Listen, if you're judgy about like a bursting can of fucking dough, you are high as a kite.
It's fun.
That shit is so good.
Super fun.
Oh, those are so tasty. I love those things, man.
I love them. I can't eat them anymore though. They're made with
it was real good. You make like a casserole, then you like take those and you just fucking put them on top of the casserole and bake that shit so it makes like a biscuit crust over the casserole. Oh man, we used to do that all the time when I was young. Fuck yeah, dude, those are fire.
In addition to the dough, you're also going to want, maybe not going to want, you can have optionally like seeds or herbs or spices to decorate this. Sure. And if you are going to do that, you're going to want one beaten egg, because that's going to help adhere those to it. So the first thing you're going to do, follow all the directions for the dough up until putting it in the oven to bake. If you're using them, assemble your toppings or decorations, and also don't forget to preheat your oven. Yep. So once you've gotten all that stuff sort of pre-done, cast a circle, clear your mind, and say, the wheel of the year turns, and today I honor the time of the first harvest. The fields are ripening, and in times of old, we would celebrate the reaping of what we had sown. Next, you'll light the earth candle and say, spirits of earth, I thank you for your bounteous harvests. Light the air candle and say, spirits of air, I thank you for cool breezes on hot days. Light the fire candle and say, spirits of fire, I thank you for warm nights by the fire. Light the water candle and say, spirits of water, I thank you for your nourishing rains. And lastly, light the spirit candle and say, spirits of my ancestors, I thank you for my strength and support. Once you're ready now, go ahead and shape the dough into any shape you wish. And traditional shapes for Lammas bread are like braided breads and also bread shaped like a person. The easiest way to do that is to take like an oval loaf and to use a knife and then to cut at the bottom to make little leggies and then to cut little arms and then to sort of like make an indent near the top to give it a neck so it looks like it has a head. But you don't necessarily have to do that. You can shape it into any way that you want. And as you are shaping this dough, focus on the things that you're grateful for, especially the things that you've worked hard to accomplish. And when you are done with that, if you're using seeds, herbs, or spices as decoration, brush some of the beaten egg on the dough and sprinkle or place your decorations on the dough. When I say decorations, please keep in mind that whatever you're putting on here is going to go into the oven and be baked at a high temperature. So it should not be something that would be a problem if it melted.
Melt or burn or anything like that. Yeah. Decoration is mostly seeds, right? Or like when you flour some of the dough, you know, when you like score it with a razor blade and like flour half of it, so it's got like differential coloration or some such.
Exactly.
Like that.
Yeah. So once you're happy with your bread, say, I am thankful for all these things and more. I honor my ancestors of old by celebrating the old ways and keeping them alive. And now go ahead and bake the bread according to your directions. Allow the bread to cool before eating it. And while the bread is baking, enjoy your small snack, being sure to leave behind a sip and a bite for the spirits. You can, of course, wait until the bread is done, but some bread takes quite a while to cool. And it is delicious and wonderful to have warm bread, but what you don't want out of the oven is to have scorching hot bread. A thing that I did not learn for a long time when you are doing bread making, this is my like pro tip here, is you have to wait until the bread is cool enough to put your hand on like the bottom, whatever the bottom of the bread is. Like maybe you turn it upside down on a rack. Yeah. Like like put your hand on the loaf for, if you can put your hand on the loaf for a minute and it's not too hot for your hand, then you're probably good. And the reason why you're doing this is because
you burned yourself with bread?
No. Is because when you cut open a loaf of bread and it is too warm, it lets all of the steam out.
Oh, and
it
collapses.
Changes the texture of the bread. The bread doesn't technically collapse, but it can collapse.
Yeah.
But more likely, you're going to have a very dry and hard to eat bread after you get through the first couple of slices. So that's why you generally want to wait for the bread to cool entirely. So if you want to have warm bread, just heat it up later. Most of us have microwaves.
Or a skillet, geez.
Or a skillet,
But okay, I understand what you're saying. Unless you just bake that bread and you're going to eat 100% of that bread in one sitting.
And that's
and
great.
And the reason why I'm saying that is
it.
because I will eat a whole ass loaf of bread. I didn't get a large lad by not eating a whole ass loaf of bread in one sitting. Let me tell you what.
Now, you can also, once you're done with all this, you can do any other spell work as desired. And once you're ready, of course, thank the spirits, extinguish your candles. You don't have to wait until the bread is done to be able to do this. You can do this sort of at your own pace. And when you enjoy your ritual bread, remember the things that you're grateful for. You can, if you are a closeted person. You can definitely do the baking of the bread and all of this stuff silently, and decorating it in a way that's, you know, a little bit less hard for anybody to sort of tell. This is a great one to do if you are someone who's trying to
of, like,
not be out and about at it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely. You know, if you're in a situation where you can't, like, properly express your, like, belief or whatever, which is an increasing thing right now today in this place. So
yeah. So this is a great one to do if you happen to be closeted.
Yeah.
So, moving on to our favorite part.
Yeah. The list that keeps on giving.
The lists.
Correspondi.
Yeah. So these are the correspondences for Lughnasadh, for animals, bulls, centaurs, goats, roosters are all associated with this. Colors, we're kind of looking at those harvest colors now, even though for many of us it may still be the height of summer. So brown and gold and green, yellow, orange. Stones kind of follow that same idea there. Amber, bloodstone, carnelian, peridot, tiger eye.
Yeah.
Plants, basil, frankincense, hops, marigold, mint, sandalwood, sunflower, of course. Foods, ale, always.
Ale is just sweet, delicious liquid bread.
Apples, any grains, any berries, grapes, cider, corn, of course, potatoes, any other sort of seasonal foods. Deities that are associated with Lughnasadh are, of course, Lu, the guy who it's named after, but other deities that may interest you for it are Apollo, Ceres, or Demeter, Hestia, Ishtar, Mercury, Odin is associated with this holiday, Persephone, Tailteann as well.
Yeah.
And other types of symbols, really you're looking at dolls made from natural items and grain weaving, honoring the ancestors, sickles, skulls, also associated with this particular holiday. And this is just a short list of the correspondences. For the full list, you can go to our Patreon and support us there. It is only $5 a month to access the Book of Shadows pages. Sorry guys, we are a little bit behind. It takes us some time to get this done.
Boy, doesn't
but
it.
The full list of correspondences are on there, and
as
actually,
well as a written out version of the rituals.
Yep.
And like the things that we discussed, so that way you can like print it out and keep it as like a reference material in your Book of Shadows. Like when Lughnasadh comes around every year, because that's how time works.
Yeah, and we have a Lughnasadh 101 up in there, so if you're looking to get moving on that before this particular item is up there, then you've got last year's.
Yep, totally. Yeah. And speaking of Patreon, we would like to thank our patrons, Alan, Miranda, Helena, Alexa, and Adrian. You guys are awesome. You're the ones that are keeping us improving every time. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you for helping us do what we do better every time.
Awesome. Stay awesome. And if you want to be awesome, join the Patreon, right? I mean, that's how that works.
Yeah. Basically.
And then next up, we have a pub chat, which is coming out next week.
Yep.
So that'll be episode 11 of the pub chat. Yes, we've taken a little bit of like.
Yes, we skipped last one. Sorry, guys.
It's fine. It's exhausting.
Life happens.
We have a bunch of stuff going on. And then after that, we have episode 44 of our full length like podcast episodes. And this one is, oh my God, I don't know what that says. Tasseomancy? Tasseomancy. It is basically divination by reading tea leaves. Yeah, I've never heard Tasseomancy for that, but
all
apparently it's called Tasseomancy.
Divinations have a mancy associated
with them. Well,
no,
I understand that humans love mancies, but yeah, don't be a mancy or whatever they're yelling at us. But like a Nancy.
After Stranger Things, I'm just like, I do love Nancy.
That's fair. It's true. But this one is about Taseos. That sweet foreign car.
Yeah, so how to read.
Just sounds like a foreign car.
Yeah, so how to read tea leaves. I'm pretty excited about this one.
Yeah, this is exciting. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But yeah, this has been a quick one, but a bit a bit heavy in detail.
Yeah.
You know?
We covered a bunch of stuff in a short amount of time.
Yeah, so either way, I have been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron podcast.
Yeah, and again, like I said at the top, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and do all of the accoutrement. Let us know what you think of the stuff that we talked about. How do you celebrate Lughnasadh? Do you think that it should be pronounced Lughnasadh? If you disagree with me, where should we fight? Because I will fight. I'm super lazy.
It'll be an athletic game.
It'll be an athletic game. We're gonna take rocks. We're gonna see how far we can throw that particular rock. Yeah, I've done heavy events for the Scottish Games. It's dreadful. It's exhausting, but I've done it. Yeah, fucking Braemar Stone, my guys. But wait for height, wait for distance, caber toss. I have a caber.
We do have a caber.
I have a caber, so we can do caber toss if that's what has to come down.
We also have some big old trees that have been cut down.
We can make it happen. But and if you're listening to this on bloody aside, if you're listening to this on your podcast network of choice, don't forget to leave us a review so we know that you're listening to this. I don't know, what were you at, like 8 or 9?
We're at 8 official
like 8 official
listeners.
guys. Do you want to be an official listener? Just say so. Say you want to be one, and then we'll just assign you a number at random.
Or maybe not.
Because counting's hard. But I'm exhausted. I'm ready for bed. But yeah, so let us know what you think about all that kind of stuff and how you celebrate this kind of shenan.
Yeah.
And we will catch up with you guys on the next one. Stay magical, folks.
Yeah, and don't forget, breathe in self-confidence and breathe out self-doubt.
Right.